They say money can buy anything. A penthouse overlooking the city. A fleet of cars that most people only see in magazines. Power, influence, respect. I had it all. What money couldn't buy was the sound of my daughter's laughter. It couldn't buy her the ability to walk, to run, to dance like she used to before the accident that shattered our lives 3 years ago. My name is Marcus Whitmore, and I'm worth $3 billion. But on that rainy October evening, standing outside St. Catherine's Hospital with my unconscious daughter in my arms, I would have traded every cent to hear her voice just one more time. What I didn't know was that a homeless boy dancing in a dainty alley was about to change everything. This is the story of how I lost everything that didn't matter and found the only thing that did. The doctors called it a miracle that Emma survived the crash at all. I called it a curse. My wife, Catherine, didn't survive. The drunk driver who slammed into us on that highway 3 years ago walked away with barely a scratch. Emma, my beautiful 8-year-old daughter, was left paralyzed from the waist down, trapped in a body that wouldn't obey her commands. And me? I walked away with a guilt so heavy it threatened to crush me every single day. I was driving that night. I threw myself into work after that. Whitmore Industries became my sanctuary, the boardroom my church. If I worked hard enough, stayed busy enough, maybe I wouldn't have to face the hollow look in Emma's eyes every time she saw other children running in the park. Maybe I wouldn't have to acknowledge that my daughter had stopped speaking 6 months after the accident. The doctors said it was psychological, trauma-induced mutism. They called it using their clinical terms that meant nothing and everything. Emma could speak. Physically, there was nothing wrong, but she chose not to. Or couldn't. The therapists couldn't agree. I hired the best specialists money could buy. Speech therapists, trauma counselors, physical therapists who promised breakthrough techniques. Nothing worked. Emma sat in her wheelchair, staring out windows, living in a silence that grew thicker with each passing month. Until that October evening when everything changed. I was leaving the office late, as usual. My driver, James, had called in sick, so I was walking to the parking garage myself, something I rarely did anymore. The rain was coming down in sheets, the kind of downpour that empties the streets and sends everyone running for cover. That's when I heard it. Music, not from a speaker or car radio, but something else. Something raw and alive, cutting through the storm like a beacon. I followed the sound down a side alley next to a closed bakery, my $1,000 shoes splashing through puddles that probably cost more than most people made in a week to clean. And there he was, a boy, maybe 16 or 17, soaked to the bone, dancing in the rain like it was the most natural thing in the world. His clothes were threadbare, hanging off his thin frame. His feet were bare, cut and bruised. But his face was lit up with pure, unfiltered joy. He was dancing to music only he could hear, his movements fluid and graceful despite the obvious hunger in his gaunt features. Spinning, leaping, arms outstretched to the storm as if he were embracing it. As if the rain wasn't a punishment, but a gift. I stood there, transfixed, a billionaire in a designer suit watching a homeless boy dance like he had everything in the world to celebrate. Beautiful, isn't it? I turned. An elderly woman stood in the doorway of the bakery, wrapped in a shawl that had seen better days. Her eyes were kind but knowing. He dances every night, she continued. Rain or shine. Been doing it for months now. Sometimes people stop and watch. Most just hurry by. Who is he? I asked. She shrugged. Name's Elijah. That's all I know. Streets don't encourage much in the way of life stories. But that boy, he's got something special. Dance is like he's telling a story nobody else can hear. I watched Elijah spin again, and something in my chest cracked. When was the last time I'd seen someone so completely, unself-consciously alive? When was the last time Emma had moved with anything but resignation? An insane idea began forming in my mind. Does he come here every night? I asked. Like clockwork, the woman replied. Why? You looking to give him a handout? Something like that, I murmured. The next evening, I came back. This time I brought Emma. She didn't want to come, of course. She never wanted to go anywhere anymore. But I was her father, and some authority still remained. I wrapped her in her favorite purple coat, lifted her into her wheelchair, and drove us both back to that alley. The rain had stopped, leaving the city wet and glistening under the streetlights. Emma sat silently beside me, her face turned away, not even curious about where I'd brought her. Then the music started. Not real music. I realized now that Elijah was humming, his voice carrying the melody that his body translated into movement. Tonight he was dancing to something slower, more melancholic. A story of loss, perhaps, or longing. I watched Emma's face. For the first time in months, she turned her head. Her eyes found Elijah, and something flickered there. Something I hadn't seen in so long I'd almost forgotten what it looked like. Interest. Elijah noticed us watching. For a moment, he faltered, self-consciousness creeping in. But then his eyes met Emma's, and something passed between them. Some understanding that transcended words. He smiled at her and kept dancing. But now he was dancing for her. I could tell by the way he moved closer, by the way his movements became somehow both more gentle and more expressive. He was telling her a story through his body, through the arch of his back and the extension of his arms. And Emma was listening. For 20 minutes, Elijah danced while Emma watched. I stood behind her wheelchair, my hands gripping the handles, afraid to breathe, afraid to break whatever spell was being woven in that dirty alley. When Elijah finally stopped, breathing hard, he approached us slowly. Up close, I could see he was younger than I'd thought, 15, maybe. His eyes were old, though, too old for his face. She liked it, he asked quietly, looking at Emma. Emma didn't respond, but her eyes were bright. Alive. She loved it. I said, my voice rough. I'm Marcus Whitmore. This is my daughter, Emma. Elijah's eyes widened slightly. Even homeless teenagers knew the Whitmore name. I have a proposition for you. I continued, the words tumbling out before I could second-guess myself. My daughter, she hasn't spoken in over 2 years. She hasn't shown interest in anything in months. But she watched you dance tonight. Really watched? I want to hire you. Hire me. Elijah looked confused. To dance. To dance for her. Every day. For as long as it takes. For as long as what takes. For her to come back to us, I said simply. Elijah looked at Emma, really looked at her, and I saw understanding dawn in his eyes. I'm not a therapist, he said carefully. I'm just a kid who likes to dance. Maybe that's exactly what she needs. There was a long silence. The city hummed around us, indifferent to this strange meeting in a forgotten alley. I can't pay you much, Elijah finally said, and I realized he'd misunderstood. No, I said quickly. I'm hiring you. I'll pay you. I'll pay you well. Room, board, whatever you need. Just dance for my daughter. Elijah stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. Why? He asked. Because watching you dance, she looked alive again. Because I'll try anything, absolutely anything, to bring her back. Because I stopped, surprised by the emotion clogging my throat. Because you gave her something in 20 minutes that 100 doctors couldn't give her in 3 years. Hope. Elijah looked at Emma again. She was still watching him, her small hands gripping the armrests of a wheelchair. Okay, he said quietly. I'll do it, but not for money. Then for what? Teach me, he said. I can dance, but I can't read well. Can't do math. Never finished school. If I'm going to dance for her, you teach me everything else. Give me an education. That's the deal. I felt something like respect stir in my chest. This boy, who had nothing, wasn't asking for handouts. He was negotiating for his future. Deal, I said, extending my hand. Elijah's grip was firm despite his thin frame. When do we start? He asked. Tomorrow, I said. Be at this address at 8 in the morning. I handed him my business card. We'll set you up with a room, get you some proper clothes, and... No, Elijah interrupted. I dance tonight. Then tomorrow we do all that other stuff. I started to argue, but Emma made a small sound. Not words, but something. A tiny noise that stopped me cold because it was the first sound she'd made in months that wasn't crying. Okay, I agreed. Tonight. Elijah smiled, and it transformed his face. He stepped back, took a breath, and began to dance again. This time, he danced a story of hope. The next morning, Elijah arrived at the Whitmore estate at 7:30, a full 30 minutes early. I watched from my study window as he stood at the gates, staring up at the mansion with an expression I couldn't quite read. Faye? Or? Both? Mrs. Chen, our housekeeper, let him in. I heard her sharp intake of breath when she saw his condition up close. The bruises, the cuts on his feet, the way his clothes hung on him like he was made of coat hangers. Mr. Whitmore, she called up the stairs. This young man needs a doctor. He needs a shower and food first. I called back, coming down. Get him set up in the East Wing guest room. Have Marcus Jr.'s old clothes brought out. They should fit. Marcus Jr., my son, dead now for 5 years, killed by leukemia at age 14. Another ghost in this house full of ghosts. Mrs. Chen's face softened. She understood. Right away, sir. I found Elijah an hour later in the dining room, showered and dressed in clothes that almost fit. His hair, cleaned of street grime, was thick and dark. Without the dirt, I could see he had his mother's eyes, whoever she was, green and startling. He was eating slowly, deliberately, like someone who'd learned the hard way not to wolf down food too quickly when your stomach wasn't used to it. How long were you on the streets? I asked, sitting across from him. 2 years, he said quietly, since my mom died. No other family. None that wanted me. His tone was matter-of-fact, but I heard the pain underneath. What happened to her? Your mother. Cancer. We had insurance at first, but then she lost her job, and... He shrugged. Medical bills. You know how it is. Actually, I didn't. Not really. But I was beginning to. I'm sorry, I said. Don't be. She was amazing. Taught me to dance, actually. She used to be a dancer before she had me. Modern dance, mostly. She said dance was the body's way of speaking when words weren't enough. He looked up at me. That's why I kept doing it. After she died, It was like keeping her alive somehow. Understanding clicked into place. That's why you dance for free. For strangers. She always said art should be shared. That beauty wasn't meant to be hoarded. He paused. Is that why you're really doing this? Hiring me? Or is there something else? Smart kid. Emma was a dancer too, I said. Before the accident. Ballet, mostly. She was good. Really good. Her instructor said she had real potential. I stayed at my coffee. She loved it. Lived for it. And then, the accident took it away. It took everything away. Her mother, her legs, her voice, her joy. I met his eyes. I need you to help me give her back at least some of that. You know I can't make her walk again, Elijah said carefully. I know, but maybe you can remind her why dancing, why living is worth it even from a wheelchair. Elijah considered this. Where is she now? Still sleeping. The medications make her drowsy, but she'll be awake soon. I thought, maybe you could dance in the garden, where she can see from her window. Every morning, and whenever else she wants. Elijah nodded slowly. Okay, but Mr. Whitmore, don't expect miracles. I'm just a kid who can dance. You're more than that, I said. You're someone who finds joy in the rain. Maybe that's exactly the kind of miracle she needs. Emma's reaction when she saw Elijah dancing in the garden was everything I'd hoped for and nothing I expected. She didn't smile. She didn't make a sound. But she watched. For 2 hours straight, she sat at her window and watched Elijah move through the morning light, telling stories with his body. When he finished, drenched in sweat, he looked up at her window and bowed. A deep, respectful bow, like she was royalty. Emma lifted one hand. Just slightly. A small wave. It was the most response she'd given anyone in a year. Mrs. Chen, standing beside me in the hallway, wiped tears from her eyes. Mater de Dios, she whispered. That boy. I know, I said, but I didn't know. Not yet. I didn't know what I'd really invited into my home. I didn't know that Elijah carried secrets darker than homelessness. I didn't know that someone was looking for him, someone dangerous who wouldn't stop until they found him. And I didn't know that Emma's silence hid a truth that would shake the foundations of everything I thought I knew about the accident that destroyed our family. All of that would come later. For now, I just watched my daughter watch a boy dance and felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. The arrangement fell into a rhythm faster than I expected. Mornings, Elijah danced in the garden while Emma watched from her window. Afternoons, I hired tutors to work with him, catching him up on the education he'd missed. Evenings, we ate dinner together, the three of us, in what had once been a formal dining room that seated 24 but now felt almost cozy with just us. Emma still didn't speak, but she was present in ways she hadn't been before. She watched everything Elijah did with intense focus. Sometimes her fingers would move slightly, as if remembering steps her legs could no longer perform. Elijah was a quick study. His reading was behind, but he had a hunger for knowledge that impressed even the most skeptical tutors. Math clicked for him when we framed it through music and movement, rhythm and geometry intertwined. History came alive when he understood it as stories of people dancing through time. But it was the dance itself that mattered most. 2 weeks in, I came home early from work and found something that stopped me in my tracks. Elijah had moved Emma's wheelchair into the garden. He was dancing close to her, closer than usual, and as he moved, he was taking her hands, guiding her arms through motions that mirrored his own. She was dancing. With him. Just her upper body, just her arms and torso. But she was dancing. And she was crying. Silent tears streaming down her face, but her arms were moving with a grace I remembered from before. The muscle memory was still there, waiting to be awakened. I watched from the window, my own eyes blurring, as Elijah danced Emma through a routine that let her be whole again, even if only from the waist up. He never treated her as broken, never showed pity. He just included her in the story his body was telling, made her part of the dance. When they finished, he knelt beside her wheelchair. I couldn't hear what he said, but I saw Emma's lips move. Not words, not yet, but something. A whisper, perhaps, or a promise. That night, Elijah knocked on my study door. "Come in," I called. He entered hesitantly. Despite everything, he still moved through the house like he expected to be kicked out at any moment. Old habits from the streets died hard. "I need to tell you something," he said. His tone made me set down my papers. "Sit." He sat, but on the edge of the chair, ready to run. "There's someone looking for me. Someone I ran from." My blood went cold. "Who?" "His name is Vincent Caruso. He..." Elijah swallowed hard. "He runs kids on the streets. Steals them, mostly. Some runaways, but others, he takes them. Makes them steal, makes them beg. Makes them do worse things." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. He wanted me for his operation. When I refused, let's just say I have scars from that conversation. "He's the one who hurt you." Elijah nodded. "I escaped 6 months ago. Been moving around, never staying in one place too long. But I heard through the street network that he's still looking. And now I'm here, staying in one place, and you think he'll find you." I finished. "I know he will. It's just a matter of time. And when he does..." Elijah met my eyes. "I don't want to bring that danger to Emma. To you. Maybe I should go." "Absolutely not," I said immediately. The fierceness in my own voice surprised me. "You're not going anywhere. Emma needs you. And frankly, I think you need us too." "But Vincent..." "I have resources." I cut him off. "Lawyers. Security. Money. Whatever we need to keep you safe, to put this Vincent Caruso behind bars, we'll do it. You don't understand. Vincent has connections. Police, judges, people in high places who look the other way. Money won't." "Then we'll find people who won't look the other way," I said. "I didn't build a billion-dollar company by backing down from bullies. I'm not about to start now." Elijah stared at me, something like wonder in his eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "I'm just some street kid you found dancing in an alley." "You're the person who gave my daughter back her dance," I said simply. "You're the person who shows up every single day and gives her something to hope for. That makes you family. And I protect my family." It was the first time I'd said it out loud, but it felt right. Somehow, in just 2 weeks, this haunted boy with his mother's dance moves and old, tired eyes had become part of us. "There's something else," Elijah said quietly. "About Emma. About why she doesn't speak." I leaned forward. "What about it?" "I don't think it's just trauma," he said carefully. "I think it's guilt." "Guilt? Over what?" "Over surviving when her mother didn't. Over being the reason you were all in the car that night. Over..." He stopped, seeing my face. "How could you possibly know that?" I demanded. "Because I recognize it," he said softly. I see it in the mirror every day. The same guilt I carry about my mom. Wondering if I should have worked harder, stolen more, done anything differently so she could have gotten better treatment. The guilt of being alive when someone you love is dead. He paused. Emma blames herself. And until she forgives herself, she won't speak. Because speaking means facing it, and facing it means feeling it all over again. The words hit me like a physical blow because I knew, with sudden terrible clarity, that he was right. All those doctors, all those specialists, and none of them had seen what this homeless boy saw in 2 weeks. How do we fix it? I asked, my voice rough. We help her remember that her mom would want her to live, Elijah said, to dance, to be happy. We help her understand that grief isn't something you get over, but something you learn to dance with. Is that what you do? Dance with your grief. Every single day, he said. It's the only reason I'm still here. The next morning, everything changed again. I woke to screams. Not Emma. Emma couldn't scream. But Mrs. Chen could, and she was screaming now, her voice shrill with terror. I ran downstairs in my pajamas, my heart hammering. Mrs. Chen stood in the foyer, pointing at the front door with a shaking hand. Someone had spray-painted a message across the expensive wood. I'm coming for what's mine. And beneath it, a symbol I didn't recognize, but that made Elijah, appearing behind me, go white as a sheet. Vincent, he whispered, has found me. I called my head of security immediately. Robert Mason had been with me for 10 years, former Special Forces, built like a tank and unflappable in crisis. When I told him what happened, he was at the estate within 20 minutes with a team of 6. We're going to lock this place down, Robert said, examining the spray paint. Motion sensors, cameras on every approach, armed guards at the gates. No one gets in without clearance. Will it be enough? I asked. Robert's jaw tightened. Against some street punk running kids? It should be. But Mr. Whitmore, you need to understand, if this Vincent has the connections the boy says, we might be playing a bigger game than simple home security. Then we play bigger, I said, whatever it takes. Upstairs, Emma had wheeled herself to her window, staring down at the activity in the driveway. Elijah sat on her floor, his back against the wall, looking more defeated than I'd ever seen him. I should go, he said when I entered, before this gets worse. You go and he wins, I replied. You think he'll stop hunting you just because you left? No, we face this. Together. Emma made a sound. We both turned to look at her. She was staring at Elijah with an intensity that was almost frightening. She agrees with me, Elijah said softly. I can tell. Then it's settled. You stay. We fight. But fighting Vincent Caruso turned out to be more complicated than I expected. When I called the police to report the threat, they were polite but ultimately useless. We'll increase patrols in the area, the detective said, his tone suggesting he'd rather be anywhere else. But graffiti on private property isn't exactly high priority. This isn't graffiti, I snapped. It's a threat against a minor in my care. Has this Vincent Caruso actually approached the property? Made direct threats? Not yet, but... Then there's not much we can do preventatively, Mr. Whitmore. Call us if he actually tries something. I hung up, furious. Robert had been right. Vincent had connections. My lawyers had better news. We can file for emergency custody of the boy, Sandra Kim, my lead attorney, said. Given his status as a minor and the documented threats, We have grounds to make him your legal ward temporarily. It would give you legal standing to protect him. Do it, I said immediately. Mr. Whitmore, you should know. This will put your name in the system. Make you visible. If this Vincent is as connected as the boy says, you will be painting a target on your own back. I'm already a target, I said. At least this way I'll have legal grounds to shoot back. The custody papers were filed that afternoon. By evening, I was officially Elijah's temporary guardian, pending a full hearing in 2 weeks. It should have felt like a victory. Instead, it felt like I'd just declared war. That night, my phone rang at 2 a.m. Unknown number. Mr. Whitmore. The voice was smooth, cultured, nothing like what I'd expected from a street thug. I believe you have something that belongs to me. This is Vincent, I assume. Vincent Caruso. And you've made a very expensive mistake, taking in my property. Elijah isn't property. He's a child under my protection. A soft laugh. Your protection? How noble. But you don't understand the game you're playing. Elijah stole from me before he ran. $10,000 from an operation he was supposed to be running. That's a debt that needs to be paid. He was a child being exploited. Whatever money involved is your problem, not his. Everything is negotiable, Mr. Whitmore. You're a businessman. You understand that. So here's my offer. Return the boy by Friday, and I'll consider the debt forgiven. Keep him, and I'll make sure everyone you care about pays the price. Starting with your daughter. My blood turned to ice. You go near Emma and I'll. You what? Call the police? We both know how that will go. I have friends, Mr. Whitmore. Good friends in useful places. Can you say the same? The line went dead. I sat in the darkness of my study, my hands shaking with rage. Vincent had just threatened Emma, my little girl who'd already lost so much. But instead of fear, I felt something else. Something cold and focused. Vincent Caruso had made a fatal error. He'd threatened my family, and I was about to show him exactly what a billionaire could do when someone he loved was in danger. The next morning, I made a call I'd hoped I'd never have to make. Marcus. The voice on the other end was surprised. It's been what? 15 years. 16, I said. Jake, I need your help. Jake Morrison and I had gone to Harvard together. While I went into business, Jake went into investigative journalism. He'd made a career exposing corruption in high places, bringing down politicians and businessmen who thought they were untouchable. We'd drifted apart over the years, but I'd followed his career. He was exactly what I needed. What kind of help? Jake asked warily. I told him everything. About Elijah, about Emma, about Vincent's threats. When I finished, there was a long silence. Marcus, Jake said finally, do you have any idea who Vincent Caruso really is? A street criminal who exploits children. Is that, yes, but he's also connected to the Moretti family. You know, the Morettis? As in organized crime? As in people who make problems disappear permanently. My stomach dropped. You're saying his mafia. Not exactly, but close enough that the distinction doesn't matter. He runs their street operations. The kids he controls feed into a larger network, theft, drugs, prostitution. Going after him means going after them, and they don't take kindly to threats. He threatened my daughter, Jake. Another pause. Yeah, okay. That changes things. Give me 3 days. I'll dig into Vincent, find everything there is to find. If he has weaknesses, I'll find them. And if he doesn't, everyone has weaknesses, Marcus. It's just a matter of looking in the right places. While Jake worked his magic, I focused on protecting what mattered. Robert upgraded security again. Now we had armed guards rotating in 12-hour shifts, cameras covering every inch of the property, even motion sensors in the trees. The estate felt like a fortress, but fortresses could be broken. Elijah handled the stress better than I expected. He kept to his routine, dancing for Emma every morning, studying every afternoon. But I saw the fear in his eyes, the way he flinched at unexpected sounds. One evening, I found him on the balcony off the library, staring out at the darkening sky. "You should be inside," I said. "It's not safe out here." "It's not safe anywhere," he replied. "Not really. Vincent doesn't give up. Ever. You need to understand that. He's not going to stop just because you have lawyers and security guards." "Then what do you suggest?" "I don't know. Run? Disappear? I've gotten good at that over the last 2 years. Running means leaving Emma. Could you do that?" Elijah's jaw clenched. No, I couldn't." "Then we don't run. We fight." "You keep saying that. Fight. But with what? Vincent has an army. You have what? Money." "Money," I agreed, "and something Vincent doesn't have." "What's that?" "A reason to win," I said. "Vincent's motivated by greed and power. I'm motivated by love, by family. That's a much stronger force." Elijah turned to look at me, and in the fading light, he looked impossibly young. "You really think we can beat him?" "I think we have to try, because the alternative is unacceptable." Jake called back on day 3. "I found something," he said, his voice tight with excitement. "Vincent's been sloppy. He's using some of the kids he controls to run a money laundering operation through a charity, a fake non-profit supposedly helping homeless youth. The irony is almost funny. How does that help us? Because it's federal. Money laundering through a charity crosses state lines, involves wire fraud, makes it an FBI case. Local cops might be in his pocket, but the feds are a different story. I have a contact, an agent who's been trying to build a case against the Moetti family for years. If we can give him Vincent, he'll move heaven and earth to protect his witnesses." Hope flickered. "What do you need?" "Evidence. Documentation. Anything that proves Vincent's connection to the charity and to the kids. Can Elijah provide that?" "I'll ask." When I presented the idea to Elijah that evening, his face went through a dozen emotions. Fear, hope, doubt, and finally, determination. "I can do better than documentation," he said. "I know where he keeps his records. Everything, names of kids, amounts laundered, payments to his contacts. His old school keeps it all in physical ledgers in his office. Says digital is too easy to hack." "Where's the office?" "North Side. Warehouse District." "But Marcus." Elijah's voice dropped. "It's guarded. And if we're caught—" "We won't get caught," I said with more confidence than I felt. "We'll plan this carefully. Use professionals." "No," Elijah said firmly. "No professionals. Vincent knows all the players in this city. Someone talks, we're dead. It has to be just us." "Us." I stared at him. "You and me." "Who else?" "I'm a businessman, Elijah. I've never broken into anything in my life." "Then you're about to learn," he said. "Because this is the only way. We get those ledgers. We have Vincent. We destroy those ledgers. Kids stay trapped. It has to be us. I looked at this boy, this 15-year-old homeless kid who'd somehow become the bravest person I knew, and realized he was right. Okay, I said. When? Tomorrow night. Vincent runs a pickup on Wednesdays, collecting money from his various operations. His office will have minimal security. It's our best chance. Tomorrow night, I repeated, my heart pounding. God help us. God's got nothing to do with this, Elijah said grimly. This is all us. I didn't tell Emma what we were planning. How could I? She'd already lost her mother. I couldn't let her know her father was about to break into a crime lord's office with nothing but a teenage boy and a plan that was mostly wishful thinking. Instead, I sat with her that evening after Elijah's final dance of the day. She was in her wheelchair by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. I need to tell you something, I said, kneeling beside her chair so we were eye level. She turned to look at me, those big eyes so much like her mother's. I love you, I said simply. More than anything in this world. More than money, more than business, more than my own life. You and Elijah, you've become my whole world. And I'm going to protect that world, no matter what it costs. Emma reached out and touched my face. Her fingers were soft, gentle. She couldn't speak, but her eyes said everything. I know. I love you too. Be careful. I'll be back before you know it. I promised. And when I come back, things will be different. Better. We'll be safe. She nodded slowly, trusting me in a way that made my heart ache. That night at 11 p.m., Elijah and I left the estate through a service entrance that only Robert and Mrs. Chen knew about. I told them I was taking Elijah to see a specialist about his trauma, a lie that tasted bitter but necessary. We drove in one of my less conspicuous cars, a black sedan that wouldn't attract attention. Elijah navigated, directing me through parts of the city I'd never visited, places where the wealthy didn't venture unless they were lost or stupid. The warehouse district was exactly as grim as I'd imagined. Abandoned buildings, broken streetlights, shadows that seemed to move with malicious intent. There, Elijah pointed. Third building on the left. Red door. I parked 2 blocks away, killing the lights. My hands were sweating. In all my years of building an empire, making million-dollar deals, I'd never felt fear like this. We go in through the back, Elijah whispered. There's a loading dock with a broken lock. Vincent never fixed it, said it made him look less suspicious if the place looked abandoned. We crept through the darkness, every sound magnified. My heart hammered so loud I was sure someone would hear it. But the street was empty, eerily so. The loading dock was exactly as Elijah described. He jimmied the lock with practiced ease, a skill from his street days, and we slipped inside. The warehouse was dark, smelling of rust and old concrete. Elijah led the way with a small flashlight, moving with confidence born of familiarity. We climbed a metal staircase to the second floor, each step creaking beneath our weight. Office is at the end of this hall, Elijah breathed. There should be one guard, usually sleeping. We need to. A door opened ahead of us. We froze. A man emerged, backlit by the office light. Not a guard. Vincent himself. Well, Vincent Caruso said, his voice that same smooth tone from the phone call. The billionaire and his pet. I have to admit, Marcus, I didn't think you'd be stupid enough to come here yourself. He wasn't alone. 2 large men stepped out behind him, blocking any retreat. How did you know? I demanded. Please, You think I don't have eyes on you? I've been watching your estate since the boy arrived. I knew the moment you left. Vincent smiled, and it was the coldest thing I'd ever seen. You've made this so much easier. Now I don't have to go to you. You've come to me. Elijah stepped in front of me, his thin body a ridiculous shield. Let him go, Vincent. This is between us. Oh, it was between us, Vincent agreed. Until Mr. Whitmore decided to play hero. Now it involves him. His daughter. Everyone he loves. Because that's what happens when people cross me, Elijah. They learn painful lessons about respect. You want the money? I said quickly. The 10,000 Elijah supposedly stole? I'll pay it. 20,000. 50. Whatever you want. Vincent laughed. This stopped being about money the moment you filed for custody. You made this public, Whitmore. You challenged me. Now I have to make an example, or every punk kid on my payroll will think they can run to some rich savior. So what? You kill us. I tried to keep my voice steady. That'll bring more attention than you want. Kill you? No, no. Too messy. Too public. Vincent's smile widened. But accidents happen. Gas leaks. House fires. Such a tragedy when a grieving billionaire and his paralyzed daughter die in their sleep. And the homeless boy he took in? Probably ran away after starting the fire. We'll never find him, of course. My blood turned to ice. You touch Emma and I'll. You what? You'll be dead, Marcus, and your daughter will be alone. Unless... Vincent paused, pretending to consider. Unless we make a deal. What deal? Elijah comes back to work for me. You sign over custody, publicly state it was a mistake, and forget you ever heard my name. Do that, and I'll let you and your daughter live. Don't do it, Elijah said immediately. He's lying. He'll kill you anyway. Smart boy, Vincent said, but wrong. I keep my word when it benefits me. And killing a billionaire brings heat I don't need. So I'm offering you a genuine out, Marcus. Take it. I looked at Elijah, this brave, broken boy who'd given my daughter back her joy. This child who danced in the rain like he owned the world despite owning nothing. I thought of Emma, waiting at home, trusting me to come back. No, I said. Vincent's smile disappeared. Excuse me. I said no. You're not getting Elijah. You're not getting anywhere near my daughter. And you're going to jail. Bold words for a man who's about to die. Maybe, but you're forgetting something. What's that? I'm not stupid enough to come here without insurance. I pulled out my phone and hit send on a pre-drafted email. That's everything Elijah told me about your operation going to the FBI, to every major news outlet in the city, and to several people with instructions to go public if I don't check in within the hour. You kill us, and by morning, you'll be the most wanted man in America. Vincent's face darkened. Bluff. Try me. For a long moment, we stood in that dimly lit hallway, two men from different worlds locked in a battle of wills. Vincent's goons waited for orders, hands hovering near weapons I now noticed under their jackets. Then Vincent did something unexpected. He laughed. You magnificent fool, he said, shaking his head. You really think you've won? You think sending some emails protects you? I'll have lawyers bury those allegations before breakfast. I'll have my contacts discredit every word. And when the dust settles, you'll still be dead, just with more paperwork involved. Maybe, I agreed, but you'll be exposed, wounded, and wounded animals get hunted. Is it worth it, Vincent? Really worth it. I saw the calculation in his eyes, the cost-benefit analysis that all criminals eventually made. We're leaving, I said, taking a step backward. You're going to let us walk out of here. And then you're going to run, because the FBI doesn't care about your local connections. They are coming for you either way now. Your only choice is whether you die a cop killer or just a regular criminal. You think I'm afraid of the FBI. I think you're smart enough to be afraid. And I think you know that killing a billionaire and his ward on camera, I gestured to my phone, which had been recording since we entered, is a life sentence even your connections can't buy you out of. Vincent's jaw clenched. His hand moved toward his jacket. And then, from somewhere below, came the sound of sirens. Multiple sirens, getting closer. Vincent's face went white. What did you do? Insurance, I repeated. Robert, my head of security, called them the moment we didn't check in after 15 minutes. They are probably surrounding the building right now. It was a complete lie. Robert didn't know we were here, but Vincent didn't know that. Boss, one of the goons looked nervous. We should go. Vincent stared at me with pure hatred. This isn't over. Yes, I said. It is. He turned and ran, his men following. We heard their footsteps pounding down a back staircase, then silence. The sirens, real sirens now, I realized with shock, pulled up outside. Ow! Elijah started. I have no idea, I said honestly. Then my phone rang. Jake's number. Marcus. Thank God. Are you at the warehouse? Yes. How did you? My FBI contact. I told him what you were planning. Stupid. By the way, monumentally stupid. And he had units in the area. They are raiding the place right now. Stay where you are, hands visible, and for God's sake don't do anything else idiotic. 5 minutes later, we were surrounded by federal agents. I'd never been so happy to see law enforcement in my life. Special Agent David Torres took our statements. Mr. Whitmore, you do realize you just committed breaking and entering, trespassing, and about a dozen other crimes. Yes, I said. Arrest me if you want. But first, get those ledges. Third office on the left. Everything you need to bury Vincent Caruso and his operation. Torres studied me for a long moment, then nodded. We'll discuss your charges later. Right now, I'm more interested in finally nailing this bastard. They found the ledges exactly where Elijah said they'd be. Books full of names, dates, amounts. Evidence of money laundering, child exploitation, connections to organized crime. Everything. It was over. We got home at 4 a.m. Emma was still awake. Somehow she'd known, the way children sometimes do, that something was wrong. When we walked through the door, alive and safe, she burst into tears. Not silent tears this time. Real, audible sobs. And then, for the first time in 2 years, she spoke. Daddy, she whispered. Just one word, rough from disuse, but the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. I dropped to my knees beside her wheelchair, pulling her into my arms. Elijah stood behind us, tears streaming down his face. I'm here, sweetheart, I said, my voice breaking. I'm here. We're all here. We're safe now. Don't leave, she whispered. Don't leave me again. Never, I promised. Never again. We stayed like that for a long time, 3 broken people holding on to each other in the darkness, understanding that sometimes family isn't about blood but about who shows up when everything falls apart. The next 3 weeks were a blur of legal proceedings, FBI interviews, and media attention I neither wanted nor could avoid. Vincent Caruso was arrested trying to flee the country. The evidence we'd helped secure led to the arrests of 17 other people in his network and freed 43 children from his operations. Elijah's custody hearing was a formality after everything that happened. The judge granted me permanent guardianship within minutes, noting that Elijah had found a father when he needed one most. But something was still wrong. Emma had started speaking again, but only in whispers, only short sentences. She was still trapped in something I couldn't reach, and I didn't understand why. Until the day I found her journal. I wasn't snooping. I need to make that clear. I was looking for a book in her room, and the journal fell from a shelf, opening to a page dated 3 years ago. The week after the accident. What I read there destroyed me. I told him to hurry. I told Daddy we'd be late for my recital. I said it again and again. Drive faster, Daddy. We're going to be late. And he did. He drove faster. And then the lights. The crash. And Mommy. It's my fault. All my fault. If I hadn't pushed him, if I'd just been patient, Mommy would still be alive. Daddy would still be happy. I wouldn't be in this chair. I don't deserve to speak. I don't deserve to dance. I don't deserve anything. The journal fell from my shaking hands. All this time, all these years, Emma had been carrying this guilt, believing the accident was her fault because she'd asked me to hurry, because she'd been excited about her recital, eager to perform, and I'd been trying to make my little girl happy. I found Emma in the garden, watching Elijah practice. She turned when I approached, saw my face, and knew immediately. You read it, she whispered. Emma. I knelt beside her wheelchair, taking her hands. Sweetheart, listen to me. The accident wasn't your fault. It wasn't anyone's fault except the drunk driver who hit us. You asking me to hurry. That was just you being a kid. That's normal. That's okay. But if you hadn't, he still would have run that red light, I interrupted firmly. He was drunk, Emma. He hit us going 60 miles an hour. 30 seconds earlier or later wouldn't have changed anything. Do you understand? Nothing that happened was because of you. Tears streamed down her face. I've been so scared. So scared that if I spoke, if I danced, if I was happy, it would mean I didn't care about Mommy. That I'd forgotten her. Oh, baby. I pulled her close. Your mother would want you to be happy, to live, to dance. She wouldn't want you punishing yourself for something that wasn't your fault. How do you know? Because I knew her. Because she loved you more than anything. And because my voice broke, because I've been carrying the same guilt, thinking if I'd driven different, reacted faster, seen him coming, but Elijah helped me understand something. Elijah had stopped dancing and was walking over, concern on his face. What did he help you understand? Emma asked. That grief isn't something you get over, I said, echoing Elijah's words from weeks ago. It's something you learn to dance with. Your mother's death was a tragedy, but you surviving? That's not something to feel guilty about. That's a gift, a chance to honor her memory by living the life she wanted for you. Emma looked at Elijah. Is that true? About dancing with grief. Every single day, Elijah said softly. Some days the dance is heavy and slow. Some days it's angry. But some days... He smiled. Some days it's full of joy, and that's okay too. That's not forgetting. That's just living. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at both of us, her father and this boy who'd become her brother in everything but blood. "I want to try," she whispered. "I want to learn to dance again. Really dance. Not just with my arms. Sweetheart, your legs." "I know," she interrupted. "I know I can't walk. But there are wheelchairs designed for dancing. I've been researching. Athletes compete in them. Dancers perform in them. I want to try." I looked at Elijah, who was grinning. "We'll make it happen," I promised. "Whatever you need. Whatever it takes." "And Daddy," Emma's voice was stronger now, "I forgive you. For the accident, for the guilt you've been carrying. Mom wouldn't want either of us living like this. So, let's both stop, okay?" I couldn't speak, could only nod as tears blurred my vision. This brave, beautiful girl, my daughter, was teaching me how to heal. Elijah cleared his throat. "So, you want to start now? I could teach you some moves. Basic stuff, just to get a feel for how the chair moves with you instead of against you." Emma's face lit up, actually lit up, for the first time in 3 years. "Really? Really? But first..." Elijah pulled out his phone and started playing music. Not the melancholy tunes he usually hummed, but something upbeat, joyful, full of life. "First, we dance. All three of us. No guilt, no grief. Just us, in this moment, choosing to be alive." And so we danced. I, a billionaire who'd forgotten how to feel anything but pain. Emma, a paralyzed girl learning to forgive herself. And Elijah, a homeless boy who'd taught us both that sometimes the greatest wealth isn't what you own, but who you love. We danced in the garden as the sun set, 3 broken people becoming something like whole. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Emma Whitmo. The auditorium erupted in applause. I gripped the armrests of my seat, my heart in my throat as Emma wheeled onto the stage in her performance chair, a specialized wheelchair designed for dance, lightweight and maneuverable almost like wings. She'd been training for this moment for months. Private lessons, physical therapy, endless hours of practice. Some days she cried from frustration. Some days she laughed with pure joy. But she never gave up. The music started. Elijah had choreographed the piece, a modern dance that told a story of loss, grief, and ultimately, hope. Emma moved across the stage, her upper body expressing emotions her legs could never again convey, her chair becoming an extension of her art rather than a limitation. She was magnificent. Beside me, Elijah watched with the pride of a brother. He was different now, healthier, happier, thriving in school. He'd been accepted to Juilliard's dance program for the following year, a full scholarship. His story, from homeless boy to dance prodigy, had made national news. But he'd insisted on deferring for a year to help Emma prepare for her own performances. "She saved me first," he'd said simply. "This is me returning the favor." On my other side, Mrs. Chen was crying openly, not even trying to hide it. The performance ended with Emma center stage, arms outstretched, her face radiant with joy. The audience gave her a standing ovation that lasted 5 full minutes. Backstage, she hugged me fiercely. "We did it," she whispered. "Mommy would be proud." "She would be so proud," I agreed. "I'm so proud." "None of this would have happened without Elijah," Emma said, pulling him into the hug. "Without you finding him. Without you being brave enough to bring him home." "I didn't bring him home," I corrected. "We found each other. All 3 of us. When we needed it most." Later that night, After the celebration dinner, after the photos and the congratulations, I found myself back in my study. The same study where, a year ago, I'd decided to take a chance on a homeless boy dancing in the rain. On my desk was a framed photo from that evening, the three of us in the garden, caught mid-laugh by Mrs. Chen's camera. We looked like what we'd become, a family. My phone buzzed. A message from Jake Morrison. Saw Emma's performance video. Amazing. Also, thought you'd want to know, Vincent Caruso was sentenced today. 15 years, no parole. The other kids from his operation are all in good homes now. You changed a lot of lives, Marcus. I typed back, we all changed each other's lives. That's how family works. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the garden where this all began, where a boy had danced for my daughter and reminded us both what it meant to be alive. Money hadn't saved us. Power hadn't saved us. The biggest empire in the world couldn't have bought what we needed most. Sometimes salvation comes in unexpected forms. Sometimes it comes from a homeless teenager dancing in an alley, seeing beauty where others see only rain. Sometimes it comes from having the courage to let broken people help each other heal. I'd spent 3 years thinking I needed to save my daughter. In the end, a boy with nothing had saved us both. And in the process, we'd saved him too. That's the thing about family, real family. It's not about blood or money or where you live. It's about who shows up when you're dancing in the rain and who chooses to dance with you. Emma was speaking again. Elijah had a future. And me? I'd learned that being a father wasn't about protecting your children from every hurt, but about teaching them to find joy even in the midst of pain. We'd learned to dance with our grief, and in doing so, we'd found our way back to life.